They will tell you it was luck, that he was born with it, that she had the right connections, that they stumbled into wealth as if fortune were some child's game of dice tossed by the invisible hand of destiny. But here's the truth: they don't want you to know. Wealth doesn't happen by accident. It happens by design, by law. Not the law written in books and legislations, not the laws men argue over in courtrooms. I'm talking about the laws etched into the very fabric of reality. The invisible architecture that governs everything from gravity to greatness, from seeds to success, from thought to things. There is a law to wealth. And if you ignore it, it doesn't matter how hard you work, you'll spin your wheels in the mud of mediocrity. But if you understand it, if you align with it, the world opens. Not easily, not instantly, but unshakably. Because when you build on law, you're building on stone. And stone doesn't sink when the tides of chance come crashing in. Thomas Edison didn't light the world by waiting for luck to strike. He burned through 1,000 failures, but each filament that failed taught him something about the law. Henry Ford didn't transform transportation by gambling at fate's table. He obsessed over efficiency, over process, over clarity of thou that built his fortune, not on a whim, but on an understanding of cause and effect. This is the truth about wealth. It is not something you find, it is something you build, something you become. But the building begins in the mind, because before wealth shows up in your bank account, it shows up in your thoughts. Your beliefs are the blueprints of your life. And most people, they're building mansions of misery with the bricks of limiting beliefs. They believe wealth is for them, the ones on the magazines, the ones with the silver spoons and trust funds. They believe money is evil, success is selfish, and dreaming big is dangerous. And like a loyal servant, the universe obeys. It hands them exactly what they believe they deserve. But here's the wild part. The law does not care who you are. It doesn't favor the rich. It doesn't punish the poor. It only responds to order, to clarity, to belief. You get not what you wish for, but what you expect. Not what you beg for, but what you believe. There's a reason Andrew Carnegie said, any idea that is held in the mind, that is emphasized, that is either feared or revered, will begin to clothe itself in the most convenient and appropriate form available. That is not poetry. That is power. That is law. You want wealth? Start here. What do you truly believe about money? About success? About yourself? Because the mind is a magnet, and it does not attract what you want, it attracts what you are. And until you change that, until you realign your internal compass from fear to faith, from scarcity to sufficiency, you'll sabotage every opportunity that knocks. You'll shrink your dreams to fit your doubts instead of expanding your faith to match your potential. Listen, every fortune that's ever been made started the same way, not with cash, but with clarity. Clarity of vision, clarity of purpose, clarity of belief. Walt Disney was bankrupt, ridiculed, and turned away over 300 times before someone gave him a shot at funding his dream. Why didn't he quit? Because the picture in his mind was clearer than the chaos around him. Because vision, not resources, is the first requirement of wealth. You don't build an empire by counting coins. You build it by casting vision, by seeing it before it exists, by living as if it's already real. Because to the law of wealth, reality is merely the echo of sustained imagination. And that imagination must be followed by discipline, not the kind that comes in bursts, not the motivated on Monday, tired by Thursday kind. I mean the kind of discipline that lives in your bones. That turns routine into ritual, that sharpens your actions until they carve destiny into stone. You see, wealth isn't waiting for the one who wants it most. It's waiting for the one who works it consistently, even when the applause dies down, even when no one's watching. The world is filled with people who almost made it, who almost stayed the course, who almost finished what they started. But almost doesn't write history. Discipline does. Discipline is the quiet architect of wealth. It's what makes you read when others sleep, create when others consume, invest when others splurge, and persist when others retreat. It's what turns a fleeting dream into a formidable reality. Carnegie, Ford, Rockefeller, they weren't superheroes. They were men with flaws, fears, and failures. But they obeyed the law, they studied it, they lived it, and the law doesn't ask for perfection. It asks for alignment. You don't have to be born into wealth to become it. You only need to align your thoughts, your habits, and your actions with its laws. Because wealth isn't waiting in a lottery ticket or a lucky break. It's waiting in your daily decisions. Every choice you make is a vote for the future you want or the future you fear. Every thought you entertain is a seed. And if you water doubt, you'll harvest regret. But if you water faith, relentless, unreasonable, unshakable faith, you'll wake up one day standing in the middle of what others once called impossible. Not because you got lucky, but because you obeyed the law. You believed when it didn't make sense. You acted when no one believed in you. You endured when it would have been easier to quit. And the law rewards those who are willing to pay the price. Because make no mistake, there is always a price. You must give up comfort to gain clarity. Give up distraction to gain direction. Give up the need to be liked to gain the power to lead. Give up the small thinking that keeps you in cages of your own making. The law does not bend to convenience. It responds to commitment. And the moment you commit not casually, but completely, that's when the shift begins. That's when reality starts to rearrange. That's when the doors that were closed begin to open, not because of chance, but because you earned the key. Purpose. It's not a buzzword. It's not some vague slogan written on a coffee mug or whispered in yoga retreats. Purpose is the ignition switch of destiny. It's what separates movement from meaning. Because motion without purpose is chaos, but motion with purpose, that's power, that's creation, that's wealth. You want to know why so many grind and grind but never grow? Because they've confused being busy with being effective. They've traded deep purpose for shallow productivity. They wake up, check their phone, rush into the noise, and wonder why life feels empty. Why money slips through their fingers. Why? They never seem to build anything that lasts. But wealth, true wealth, is never accidental. It's what happens when purpose meets action. When Edison set out to create the light bulb, he didn't just want to invent something, he wanted to illuminate the world. When Oprah rose from trauma and silence, she didn't just chase success, she chased significance. When you're guided by purpose, you don't need external motivation. Because purpose fuels persistence. Purpose makes you get up at 4 a.m. with fire in your chest. Purpose makes you stare down rejection and laugh because your why is louder than their no. Purpose makes the work sacred. Not glamorous, not always pleasant, but sacred. Because it means something. And when your work means something, when your sweat is soaked in meaning, you become unstoppable. But action must follow. Faith without works is dead. All the purpose, all the vision, all the burning desire in the world means nothing if you don't put it into motion. This is where most people fall. They think knowing is enough. They read the books, watch the videos, repeat the affirmations, but they never move. Listen to me. Knowledge is not power. Applied knowledge is power. And application requires courage. It means acting before you're ready. It means doing it messy, doing it scared, doing it broke, doing it anyway. Because the law does not reward perfection. It rewards movement. The universe is not waiting for your masterpiece. It's waiting for your momentum. You don't need to see the whole staircase to take the first step. Dr. King taught us that. But you do need to step now, not next year, not when I'm ready, not when the stars align or when you feel confident. Confidence is not a prerequisite for action. Action is the cause of confidence. And in the beginning, your steps will feel clumsy. You'll question everything. You'll doubt yourself. People will whisper. You'll be misunderstood, underestimated, mocked. But if you keep moving, something strange happens. The world starts to shift, not all at once. But piece by piece, the people change. the opportunities emerge, the skills sharpen, the vision that once felt impossible starts to feel inevitable. And that's when the next law kicks in: adaptability. Because let me warn you, no plan survives reality unchanged. You will hit walls. You will face storms. You will be betrayed, blindsided, broken. And in those moments, your ability to pivot will determine whether you rise or fall. The oak tree that refuses to bend breaks in the wind. But the bamboo that bends, it survives hurricanes. Adaptability isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's knowing that the goal doesn't change, but the path might. It's staying committed to the vision, but flexible with the method. You see, most people fail not because they weren't smart enough, but because they weren't flexible enough. They tied their identity to a single strategy. And when life said no, they said, "I guess I wasn't meant for this." Wrong. The law didn't reject your dream, it rejected your rigidity. You must evolve. Every level of wealth will require a new level of you. You cannot solve million-dollar problems with $1,000 thinking. You must outgrow yourself again and again and again. And that's where the warriors are separated from the wanderers. Because when others quit, the adaptable refocus. They learn, they unlearn, they rebuild, refine, reroute. And through every twist and turn, they carry one sacred weapon: resilience. Resilience is more than endurance. It's not just the ability to survive pain. It's the ability to turn pain into power. Lincoln lost 8 elections before becoming president. He battled depression. He buried children. And yet rose. Because his mission was bigger than his wounds. You can't be soft and successful. You can't be fragile and free. If you want the life few have, you must build a backbone few possess. Resilience means showing up after the rejection, after the failure, after the loss. Not with bitterness, but with belief. Not with excuses, but with energy. Because resilience isn't just about pushing through, it's about rising with wisdom. It's about falling in love with the process, not just the prize. Most people worship the outcome, but the wealthy, they honor the process because they know the real gold is not in the bank account. It's in who you become on the journey. It's in the character forged by challenge. It's in the self-respect built one decision at a time. And the final alchemy, hidden fuel to this whole engine of wealth, is gratitude. Gratitude is the switch that turns scarcity into abundance. It's what transforms the now into enough and the future into inevitable. When you are grateful for what you have, the law gives you more to be grateful for. Not because it's sentimental, but because it's mathematical. Gratitude aligns your energy with growth. It tunes your frequency to receiving. And no, this is not about sitting cross-legged and saying thank you to the sky. This is about walking into the storm and saying, "I'm still standing. I still believe. I'm still grateful. And I'm still building." Because wealth is not just about numbers, it's about alignment with your thoughts, with your actions, with your purpose, with your gratitude. You see, the ultimate purpose of wealth is not the money. It never was. It's what the money makes possible. It's what it awakens in you. Because true wealth is not measured in dollars. It's measured in impact. It's measured in who you lift, who you liberate, and who you become. The law of wealth isn't just about accumulation. It's about expansion. Not just outward, but inward. Not just riches, but reach. Not just income, but influence. Not just profit, but purpose. When Carnegie amassed his fortune, he didn't hoard it in vaults. He built libraries, universities, and institutions that empowered generations. When Mandela was released from prison after 27 years, he didn't seek revenge. He built unity. Because real wealth doesn't just change your life. It changes the world. But the world will only change when you do. You can't pass down what you haven't become. You can't leave a legacy if you're too scared to live it. That's why this moment matters. Right now. Not someday. Not when it's convenient. Not after you've figured everything out. Now, this is the moment you stop living by default. This is the moment you start living by design. This is the moment you become the law. Because wealth is not out there. It's in here. In the way you think. In the way you speak. In the way you act, decide, and commit. You were not born to be average. You were not created to scrape by. You were not sent to this earth to just exist, clock in, pay bills, and wait for permission to dream. You are a force, a creator, a builder, a voice, a vision. And deep within you, the law of wealth is already whispering, rise. Rise with belief so strong it shakes the dust off your past. Rise with a vision so vivid it renders your excuses powerless. Rise with a purpose so clear it makes distraction irrelevant. Rise with actions so consistent they become prophecy. Rise with discipline that slices through every delay. Rise with gratitude that blinds the eyes of fear. Rise with resilience that turns failure into fuel. Rise with adaptability that makes reinvention your native tongue. Because no matter what they told you, you don't need permission. You don't need luck. You don't need the world to approve before you move. You need truth. And here it is. Wealth is not magic. It is not a myth. It is not a mystery. It is a law. And when you live that law, when your life becomes a testimony of vision, belief, discipline, purpose, and relentless action, the results are inevitable. The legacy is unshakable. The wealth is unstoppable. So burn the blueprint of mediocrity. Shatter the chains of limitation. Walk away from the noise, the doubt, the voices that never built anything. And remember this, you don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. So become it. Become the clarity. Become the belief. Become the purpose. Become the law. And the world will follow because it has no choice. This is the truth about wealth. It's not about luck. It's about law. And law, when honored, makes empires rise. Now go. Build yours.